Hello and welcome. You have tuned into Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar, and with me, as always, is my co-anchor Pavitra Parekh. Let's begin with a look at the markets then. And yes, after a gap down opening today because of the global cues and the U.S. markets fall because of inflation, what a stupendous recovery that Indian markets are seeing, even though with a red tick at the moment. But one cannot really deny the kind of recovery that Indian markets have seen, the resilience that is shown here above the 18,000 levels on Nifty 50. And also remember, the present tick is about 250 points recovery from where it started. So good going when it comes to the key indices at the moment and showing a huge amount of resilience. When it comes to the pocket which is performing the best today, it's the financials which are really leading the charge. And Bank Nifty has many records to break, 1.23% higher. So by far, it is really outperforming the key indices today. Mid caps, though, on almost the flat line now, but with a red tick, and that's also impacting the market breadth in favor of the declines because of the broader market participation. But the tech sector doing extremely badly today. But one company also, a proof of resilience that the Indian markets are showing, is Vedanta, with the huge capex cycle that has been also announced by the company, and that particular counter doing extremely well because of the comments coming in from the company. So some of the pockets are doing extremely well in trade today. Pavitra.
Oh, I think the recovery is the big story, right? I mean, we saw that gap down start, and ever since then, it's been a near 260-point recovery that we have seen on the Nifty. So that is the kind of up move that we've seen in the past few hours that we've been trading. Remember, this is at a time when there's absolutely no respite in the Asian markets. So a few of those indices will be up for you. Take a look at Hang Seng. It's down around 2.3% right now. Nikkei seeing cuts of 2.8%. Kospi is 1.5% lower. So across the board, there has really been no respite there at all. And in that context, of course, our markets have done really well. On the downside, of course, it is all of the tech stocks which are seeing sharp cuts. In fact, the Nifty IT index in itself is down over 3%. So that is the kind of pain that you're seeing on the IT companies. But what's holding up, in addition to the financials, are some of the PSU stocks. So a few of those will be up on your screen. The likes of NTPC, Power Grid, all of those doing quite well in this market. But that's what's happening with the market action. We're going to keep coming back to this. But first up, let's start off with the macros. After India's retail inflation surged to 7% in the back of higher food prices, August wholesale price index inflation has come in at an 11-month low of 12.41% versus nearly 14% that we saw last month. It's a double-digit reading for the 17th consecutive month now. And if we talk about the core inflation, that is eased to 7.8% versus the 8.3% that we saw on a month-on-month basis. But Nisha, the big cue really would be the inflation figure that we got from the US.
Oh, that's right. The global markets have been really shaping the overall sentiment all across, but India has been defying that today. But let's talk about the big cue coming in from overnight global markets. Well, the U.S. inflation data for the month of August, remember, the CPI has increased at an annual pace of 8.3%, higher than the street estimates of 8.1%. A month-on-month increase, remember, of 0.1% from July, following no change in the month before that. So this data now cements a strong case for a 75 basis points hike or more from the Federal Reserve next week. And that's what the markets will be watching out for, more interest rate hikes by the Federal Reserve. Let's also get you some of the important opinions coming in on the August CPI print and the market sentiment. Listen in.
We've actually had a lot more inflation over the last 18 months than recorded in the official statistics. And we're going to show a lot more inflation next 18 months, and there actually is going to happen. And the reason is specifically housing. My feeling is that, you know, if they see the slowdown, if they take a correct view on what future inflation is, they may not have to go that high. That's the relief the market is watching.
I don't think anything surprises me with inflation data anymore. It's hard to predict. I think the Fed hasn't got it right. The street really hasn't got it right. A few people were calling for big inflation last year and did get it right. But really, I think we're all flying a little bit blind. The one thing we do know, and this is the important thing, is the Fed is really interested in kiboshing inflation, and they're going to keep going, and they're not going to declare victory early. And I think the market keeps getting ahead of itself and thinking that this Fed pivot is somehow just around the corner. They're telling you it's not there, but the market just wants to believe it and gets itself all, excited, and then a little disappointment comes in and you get a day like today.
All right, that is some important opinion coming in on the U.S. inflation right now, as well as how markets could move in the months to come. But with that, let's focus on Europe also now. The UK August CPI data for the month of August also came through just a while ago, and it's come in at 9.9%. This is lower than the estimates that we had of 10%. The core CPI inflation is, however, in line with what the street was expecting, and it has come in at 6.3%. So that's really a roundup of what's going on as far as the inflation picture. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch, and let's now talk about some individual stocks which are moving around in trade. Ambuja Cement is one which is holding up really well. This is on the back of news flow coming through that they're looking to raise some funds. Nigel is here with all of the details on this one. Nigel.
Well, that's right. Ambuja Cement's board will be meeting on September 16th, and they're going to be considering fundraising via various instruments, be it equity or some convertible financial instruments as well. The street waits on details. What's the quantum they're looking to raise? If they're looking to do an issue, who are they looking to do it to? That's something that, the street will be waiting by for. And what's the purpose of this? Is it for growth? Is it organic? Or is it inorganic growth? Now, remember, they're already sitting on a good war chest in terms of cash. So they have in the standalone entity of close to around 4,000 crores odd. In the consolidated entity, they have more than $1 billion of cash. So they're going to be adding on to that cash balance, which tells you they have a plan going ahead. The street will be waiting by for what is that plan, though? Why is the street enthused on ACC and Ambuja, and why the stock has seen a big run-up? Well, new promoter is showing some aggression, and the street believes that cost difference between, say, ACC Ambuja and some of its peers like Shree and Ultratech will gradually get narrowed. Remember that currently the cost difference is close to 200 rupees on a per ton basis. At some point of time, there could be a potential merger between these two, which will enhance the synergy benefit. So that's something that the street is hoping with. But the remaining cement sector as well is participating, because there is hope there'll be some consolidation. If that's the case, maybe some of those smaller names could get picked up. At least that's what the street believes. And if there is consolidation in the sector, then pricing power as well as profitability follow. So that explains why ACC buzzing in trade. And in fact, you have the cement pack as well that was running behind it. Back to you.
Right. Thanks, Nigel, for all those details. Yes, Ambuja as well as ACC, both buzzing in trade. Both the Adani Group companies now after that mega acquisition. And Nigel spoke about the possibility of an acquisition because of the fundraise that they are planning. But also remember, overall Adani Group has a few companies on which they can really raise funds. And on a group level, debt equity management can also be done on a portfolio basis. So these are the companies which have a lot of equity and investor interest as well. And that's one of the reasons probably that the fundraising could be possible while the cement sentiment looks so high. Let's shift focus to Siemens then. That's in focus on the back of the highlights from their Innovation Day. And Vahishta is here to tell us more about this particular company and the Innovation Day and what it means.
Hi Nisha, thanks for that. Well, Siemens had held an Innovation Day 2022 meet yesterday where the company has emphasized on the strong capex cycle which is playing out in India at present. Also, with a high capacity utilization across industries in India, the company expects a strong traction in roads, railways, process industries, etc. 2 months ago, Siemens had launched their open digital business platform which was called Siemens Accelerator, which finds its application across industries, which is in grids, in transportation, in building segments, and company has also said that India will continue to be a critical market for the company as a whole. Siemens is aiming to target the SME segment henceforth, which will allow it to scale up and add up new designs and components into their product portfolio. The energy landscape is actually changing faster than they had anticipated and is leading the increased decarbonization in the country. Now, some of the key growth drivers for Siemens could possibly be the favorable government regulations for localization of data. There's an exponential growth in the digital communication and the launch of 5G services. However, there could also be some risks for the stock, which is a slowdown in capex and a slowdown in the research and development spending towards automation and digitization.
All right, Vahishta, thanks a lot for getting us all of the details on Siemens. The stock is up 1.5% right now as we speak. But with that, let's move on and bring you some important opinion. The 755 crore Harsha Engineers International IPO opened for subscription today. The company is the largest manufacturer of precision bearing cages in the country. So we spoke with the management earlier to get a sense of how business is looking right now. Let's listen into that.
We did about 60 to 65% utilization on an average basis. Having said that, we have a lot of product lines. Some product lines were much higher utilized, some were lower. And ultimately, it is difficult to go beyond 80% utilization for us. So ultimately, we can grow from here without significant capacity investment, but we will have to invest in some pockets, looking at a product and other things, depending on how are the demands going. Solar as a potential is very, very large, but it is a very competitive business with a lot of interest from multiple parties, and a very difficult business also. So right now we are in a transition where we are restructuring this business to focus on a narrow segment and to be very profitable within this business. Yeah, we are very hopeful that this year it will break even. Last year it did make a loss. We are estimating about 80 to 100 crore revenue contribution.
All right, moving focus then to AMI Organics then. That's also clocking in gains, and Sonal Bhutra is right here to tell us all about what's really leading that stock higher. Sonal.
Thanks a lot for that. Well, the stock was higher yesterday in trade as well, and it's piling on to gains today. And that is after promoters sold some stake in the company. Ideally, promoters selling stake would not be taken so positively. However, the buyers are reputed names, and that's why maybe the excitement in the stock. So just to give you details, one of the promoters has sold 3 lakh shares. The other one is 3 lakh, totaling it to around 0.8% stake of total equity and 2% of promoters' equity as well. The buyers, as I said, are some reputed ones. Plutus Wealth Management has bought 9.5 lakh shares, and Small Cap World Fund has bought 15.96 lakh shares into the company. And just an alert that in June 2022, the promoter holdings stood at 41.02%, which is expected to come down after this particular transaction that took place. As far as fundamentals are concerned, the company expects growth to continue. They said that they do not expect promoter stake to go down further from here. This time around, the stake sale happened only because there was a personal reason. They continue to expect a 20% compounded annual growth rate as far as revenues are concerned, and they are talking about European gas crisis as well, where they say that yes, some of the sectors are impacted, but the sector that they cater to, that is the pharma sector, is not impacted yet because it is an essential industry, so to say. In the long term, the impact could be seen, but they are confident on the margins and revenue growth picture as well, and that's why maybe the stock is higher despite promoters selling a big chunk of their own stake.
All right, Sonal, thanks a lot for running us through all of those details and taking us through what the management has to say as well. But with that, we're going to get into a short break now. Up next, the Prime Minister is set to release the National Logistics Policy document on Saturday. We'll bring you more on that when we come back.
Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. A quick look at the market, and yes, the recovery mode really continues. The momentum is there, and a lot of times the lunchtime is a time when the market trend reversal really takes place. So almost on the flat line, just 21 points shy of making it into the green. So is this going to be the time of turning into the green is what we are asking. 0.12% down on Nifty 50. Looking at some of the counters, well, financials are giving a lot of strength. In fact, State Bank of India as well as ICICI Bank being one of the biggest contributors along with HDFC Bank are the ones which are really lifting the market up. So Bank Nifty 1.32%. Look at the strong surge that this particular pocket is really showing, and the mid caps also 0.15% down. But Reliance Industries a big drag apart from the IT at the moment. Keep an eye out on the markets. Moving on to some important news of the day, and logistics stocks buzzing in trade today. The PM is set to release the policy document on Saturday, and the 17th of September is what we are watching out for. Now, the policy aims to lower the logistics cost in line with the global standard through a comprehensive action plan and also greater use of digitization as well as automation. Parikshit Luthra, my colleague, has been tracking it closely and joins us with all that is expected. Parikshit.
Well, yes, the national logistics policy has been under work since 2019. The government has been aiming to bring down the cost of logistics from 14% to 8%. And this, we believe, will be in that direction. What this policy would do, it has 3 specific targets: to reduce cost of logistics in line with global benchmarks by 2030. They also want India to be among the top 25 nations in terms of logistics performance index ranking. Creating a data-driven support mechanism for efficiency in logistics. The National Logistics Policy 2022 will create a single point of reference for all logistics and trade facilitation. It also envisages promoting development of multimodal interconnected infrastructure, standardization of physical assets, benchmarking service levels, and harmonization of documentation. The policy aims to provide for an integrated digital logistics system, and it will essentially be a comprehensive framework which will cover all subsectors of the logistics sector, make sure that nobody works in their own separate ways. There will be an empowered group of secretaries under the PM Gati Shakti program, which will monitor the implementation of the national logistics policy, and there will be a service improvement group as well. No financial implications of the NLP, expenditure to be incurred by different ministries in line with existing procedures. Back to you.
All right, Pariksha, thanks a lot for taking us through all of the details on this. A lot of the stocks are buzzing around in trade. So take a look at all cargo, Aegis, all of these up around 7% as we speak. So that space definitely seeing a lot of action. With that, we're completely out of time on this edition of Business Lunch. You're seeing the markets really move up. Now it's just around a 15-point cut that we're seeing. So we're looking quite close to the flat line. Thanks a lot for tuning into Business Lunch. Mid-Cap Radar comes up next.